For the 2025 draft that's upcoming, there are many potential options in which the Lions could potentially take. But when it comes to this particular player, I believe he is the chosen one, and he's the one that the Lions desire most above all. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So folks, obviously we know the draft is a couple of weeks away. It's getting closer and closer by the day. And it's no secret that the Lions are wanting to add to their team this offseason in terms of acquiring more talent on their defensive side of the ball to ensure it has proper depth. That has been a lot of the moves that they've already made so far this offseason. And they're obviously wanting to acquire depth, but they're also wanting to acquire depth to increase competition. They're also wanting to increase talent load, so that way they have the necessary amount of players, so that way they can play up to their Super Bowl aspirations on defense, because the offense has already shown that the team itself has a Super Bowl aspiration, and that they themselves, that's what they're going for. And again, it's no secret that virtually everyone is aware of the fact that the number one pressing need, the number one pressing desire from Lions fandom, and I would also say most pressing want or need from the Lions, is to add more lethality and dominance to their edge rushing room. But again, the question is, how will the Lions address the situation? That has always been the million-dollar question ever since this offseason has started. And it has always been my opinion, it has always been my belief that the Lions will employ a two-pronged attack to approach and address the situation, address the position of edge rusher in both free agency and also in the draft. Now, the free agency part of this question, I believe, is a very simple one. Most people have come to agree with me, is that the Lions will probably be bringing back edge rusher Za'Darius Smith at some point, either, again, before or after the draft. The remaining mystery is going to be, okay, well, who then do the Lions select to add to their potentially lethal edge rushing rotation when the draft actually occurs? And again, I've always maintained that the Lions have several key prospects that they can potentially look at and that they could get their hands on in the draft by trading up, and I'm still sticking with that. But for me, and I would also say for most Lions fans, it's like, listen, if you're going to make a big-time move to acquire a big-time player with big-time playmaking ability, you need to, again, get that perfect fit. You need to get that guy who is going to be everything you're envisioning. Now, who is that for the Detroit Lions, in my opinion? For me, I think the perfect fit, I think the best option that the Lions have in this draft for their perfect prospect that they're looking for is Tennessee edge rusher James Pierce Jr. I've spoken on him about a couple of times in the past, and I've literally referred to this guy as the very definition of a human missile. And his pass rushing prowess, I believe, could be further honed to prolific and devastating effect for the Lions in a number of ways. Here's how. Let's first and foremost consider the fact that the Lions have a slew of either already good or great pass rushers that are currently on their roster who will be able to help amplify and speed up Pierce's progression should he get selected by them. Again, you take a look at who the Lions already have. They have Hutch on the roster. They have McNeil. They have Levi. They also even have Pascal. All of these are guys that have played in the NFL now for a couple of years and their collective knowledge and experience would provide a pretty substantial boost to get Pierce to be that much better, that much faster. But it's not just the players, because you also have to remember that the Lions have the benefit of having one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL with Casey Rodgers. And Rodgers is a guy who will be able to take the talent of a player like Pierce and the destructive speed and power that he has, and again, hone it, refine it, and make it into this catastrophic, devastating effect for opposing offensive linemen. And then, as I stated earlier, when the Lions are still very much interested in bringing back veteran edge rusher Za'Darius Smith, that guy is still a very good edge rusher. He's still a very consistent edge rusher in his own right. And his wealth of knowledge and experience would also ensure that, okay, not only does, Pierce have a good supporting cast of other players with Hutch, McNeil, Levi, Pascal, and then eventually when we bring Za'Darius back, he also has an excellent coach in Rodgers. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, you put together all that knowledge, you put together all that experience, you put together all that coaching. That, to me, would make him into one of the best edge rushers sooner rather than later. Now, while all that is awesome to think about and envision, what's truly amazing to kind of put inside of a vision here in your head is that just outside of all of that is the sheer talent and annihilating power that Pierce possesses as an edge rusher that the Lions would greatly enjoy having amongst their current rotation of pass rushers. Because let's first and foremost remember something about Pierce here. Number one, he already possesses the necessary size, for the most part, that you're looking for in an edge rusher. The guy's listed at 6'5", and he's at 245 pounds. Now, the weight is a little bit light in the saddle. He could stand to put on an additional 15 pounds worth of muscle, and by doing so, that wouldn't sacrifice any of his speed, power, whatever, explosiveness off of the edge. Because muscle is only going to make you faster, it's going to make you better, so long as you don't let it get out of control. And think about that. At the Combine, Pierce ran a 4.47 40 time. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. For a guy of his size to be able to run a 4.47 when I think, Hutch ran a 4.74? And that, to me, when you combine those two things together, it's a really awesome potential that you could have as an edge rushing component on your defense. Now, while that speed number of the 40 is impressive, why else do I call him a human missile? Well, that partially plays into it. The other thing that plays into it is just his perfect ability to find the ball carrier, especially the quarterback, with just prolific speed and decisiveness. And it's whether he's pressuring the quarterback, it's whether he's sacking the quarterback, it doesn't matter. The point is that this guy just knows how to find the ball carrier. What exactly do I mean? Well, when you take a look at Pierce's general stats from when he was in college, so just his career stats when he was with the Tennessee Volunteers, you're going to get a very interesting picture. Again, during his entire time at Tennessee, he had 71 total tackles. He had 30 of them, which were tackles for loss, 19 and a half sacks. He had 3 forced fumbles. He had 1 interception with 1 defensive touchdown that came off of that interception. Now, when you take a look at those numbers, what ought to stand out very quickly to anyone is definitely the sacks. I mean, when you almost get 20 sacks in 3 years, you're doing something right. But what is especially something that should, really stand out is the tackles for loss. This guy just has a knack for getting in the backfield and bringing guys down that very few others have. What makes it even more impressive is just how quickly he got to being so good at it. Because if you go back and you take a look at his stats while he was at Tennessee, he got 28 of those 30 tackles for loss in the last 2 years. So think about that. He was only at college for 3 years. He only played 3 years in college. So for him to get pretty much almost 95% of those freaking tackles for loss in the last 2 years he played, that shows a tremendous amount of growth and a huge amount of football instinct in order to be that good that quick. But past that, there's also the in-depth analytics that show even further why I believe the Lions will make their move to get this absolutely destructive player on the edge, which in turn will give them a distinctive edge over other teams. First and foremost, let's take a look at the pass rushing analytics for James Pierce. And we're just going to be specifically looking at last year. So when you take a look at his pass rushing analytics from 2024, you get a very, again, clear picture of just what this guy can provide. His pass rushing grade from PFF was ranked 10th best out of all edge rushers in college last year. His total pressures on the quarterback was ranked 8th most. He had the number 1 amount of hurries on the quarterback, and his pass rush win rate was at a staggering 23%, which was ranked 4th best out of all edge rushers. Okay, that right there is impressive. That is humongous production out of a guy from his last year at college. Even though he didn't have the most sacks, the fact that he is a consistent, viable threat to get after the quarterback, to disrupt the pocket, make the quarterback uncomfortable, that's what you're looking for. Because again, we've heard Dan Campbell, we've heard other players say it, we've heard other coaches say it. While sacks are great to have, the number one ability that an edge rusher has to have is to be able to apply pressure, make the quarterback uncomfortable, and disrupt the pocket. Well, James Pierce did that last year in damn spades. Now that's the pass rushing element. What about his ability to be a run defense man? Well, when you take a look at his rushing defense analytics, it's just as good. His rush defense last year was ranked 11th out of all edge rushers for the rushing defense grade. He missed 0 tackles last year when he was applying run defense, and his run defense stop percentage was tied for 5th best out of all edge rushers. And this is all based off of at least having 50% of the maximum amount of snaps at either, category. So when you think about it, this guy saved that one ranking, which was at 11. This guy is exactly what the Lions would love to get their hands on. He's top 10 in pass rushing. He's pretty much top 10 in being able to apply rush defense. So this guy is coming out of college being one of the best pass rushers off the edge, but he also is one of the better edge rushers in terms of applying run defense. So when you think about all the guys that are coming out of college this year, I look at James Pierce and I'm like, dude, this guy just fits the bill. This guy has everything the Lions are going to want. He has the ability to set an edge in terms of rush defense. He has the ability to apply pressure to the quarterback, to sack the quarterback, to disrupt the pocket. So he has immense potential to become one of the best in the NFL with the proper coaching and help from his teammates, which is why I made sure to explain that in the very beginning. And then when you think about everything else the Lions have to provide, which is great for player development, they have a rich culture. They have other great players that are already there, not even talking about the defensive line room. You take a look at the entire team, offense, defense, special teams, the coaching staff. There's just so much rich culture, knowledge, experience there. And for me, it's like, okay, that in and of itself is going to help out Pierce a lot. And then, like I said, if the Lions bring back, Zadarius Smith, which I expect they will, that's going to be a good mentor for James Pierce, who can learn a lot from both him, Hutch, and a bunch of the other guys as well. So that way, he can, as I said, become one of the best edge rushers that much more quickly. So for me, I firmly believe 100% that the Lions are desiring to get their hands on this guy that I call a human missile, and that if they do, it will have absolute devastating effect on opposing NFL offenses and especially on QBs. Because just think about this for half a second. Could you imagine a defensive rotation for edge rushers that includes Hutch, Zadarius Smith, James Pierce, Marcus Davenport, Levi Onwuzurike, then you have a Lee McNeil in the middle, and you also still have Pascal roaming around. I mean, for crying out loud, you would have guys that would be coming in and you would have constant fresh pressure that would be applied to these offensive linemen, these tackles, these guards, and you wouldn't have to worry nearly as much of, one, players getting tired, or you wouldn't have to worry as much about players getting injured because they're constantly getting a break, they're constantly getting rotated. It's a perfect storm. And that's why I think the Lions desire getting Pierce above all else, because it's like, okay, not only does he fit exactly what they need from the edge rushing component, but as I've said before, this guy fits the culture. He's a hard worker. He's physical. He's gritty. He just has an innate hunger for trying to become the best player he possibly can. He checks off all the boxes for what the Lions are looking for when it comes to a player that is a high-quality draft pick, but also is a guy that's going to fit their culture, is going to fit their scheme. So for me, I truly think it. I think Pierce is going to be the guy that the Lions make their bid for to try and get a hold of. And I'll tell you this right now, I would not at all be surprised if they were to draft him. Now, I can't say with 100% certainty that they will, but based upon all of the information that I've seen, based upon all of the analytics, based upon all of the logical sense I can piece together, Pierce just makes the most logical sense. He makes the most reasonable sense of what the Lions are looking for. So, that's my argument. That's my case. You guys do with it what you will. I'm sure some people are going to say, no, they prefer Mike Green, or maybe they prefer Michael Williams, or they prefer somebody else. But I just look at Pierce and I'm just like, man, this guy just is it. He's perfect. He is literally the full body definition of what the Lions would want. So, you do with it what you will. But having said that, I believe I've presented my evidence, so I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed to the past and forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please make sure you hit that subscription button, but also please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to encourage y'all, please, to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, share anywhere you possibly can. The more we can do that, we increase viewership and we also keep people coming back for more. And with that, I hope everybody enjoyed the content. I hope I was able to present a little bit more evidence, present a much better case in regards to my thoughts on this, and I truly hope that you guys were able to get something out of it. That's what I'm truly after with this content, whether it's the first time you're watching me or you guys have been watching me forever and a day. And I also hope that you guys have something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.